All right, today's show, Video Guys Live, it's all about the TriCaster Mini, but we're not just going to do the TriCaster Mini. This isn't a product show. We're going to get into the weeds on some technology. We're going to learn about some really cool stuff that's coming down, and most of all, we have a guest who is a true NewTek evangelist. He's an employee of theirs, but he lives and breathes and drinks NewTek and TriCaster technology. Welcome to the show, Jeremy Morris.
Here's my NewTek cup. So yeah, you talk, drink it. Thank you, Gary. Glad to be back.
So today's show, we're going to concentrate on this little puppy here, the TriCaster Mini 4K. Now, we call it the TriCaster Mini 4K NDI, and there's a good reason for that. And that's because unlike other products that are out there, the TriCaster Mini, and I'm putting it over here so we can see, has no jacks. It is an all NDI product. It is a complete NDI solution. Now there's jacks in there, but you'll notice there's no HDMI, there's no SDI jacks, and there's a reason for that, because this product is all in on NDI IP technology. So talk about the Mini a little bit. I'm gonna go to the next slide, but you just tell us about this product. You've had a lot of hands-on experience with it. In fact, I believe you use it, well, you're on one right now, correct?
That is correct. I'm coming to you live from my basement studio with the Mini 4K. This product didn't get off to the greatest start because people are just like, oh yeah, it's another Mini, what's so special about it? Well, once you start to unpack and look at the horsepower and the capabilities of it, that's where people are still like, oh yeah, this is a whole new ball game. This isn't just I'm connecting up, HDMI or SDI cameras in a small, portable environment. This is now the hub of a fully immersed NDI ecosystem. This was the first product that really attacked it from that vein. The fact that, yes, we've got 4 direct ports on it. You want to hook a camera straight up to it, that's fine. But the idea is we're in an NDI world. It's prevalent now. It's out there. It's being picked up by so many other manufacturers and other different types of, even the AV side of the fence. And there's so many different areas that NDI is now permeated. Broadcast is using a lot of NDI now. So it's a great way to get your feet wet, understand how the NDI technology really works, and how you can use that to your advantage. The fact that anything that plugs into the network on the localized level, now you can see that, use that, interactive with it as a source.
So just for those who haven't seen one of the thousands of shows we've done on NDI, NDI basically uses your existing network connectivity, GigE networking, through an off-the-shelf switch, and it allows you to pass not just the video signal along it, but the control signals and other signals that go along with it, so that it's an actual two-way communication. Video's going one way, controls going the other way, and in fact, video can go the other way because we now do encode and decode. So let's talk about what comes with a TriCaster Mini 4K, because as I said, it has no HDMI, it has no SDI jacks, but what it comes with is 2 Spark Plus IOs. I see are you grabbing one up?
Yes,
the Spark
I do.
Plus IO is basically an encode decoder, and you get 2 of them. You get Skype TX, 2 channels, so you can bring in guests. That's how we're bringing Jeremy into our show. You get Live Panel, and guys, Live Panel is the ultimate easy button for operating a show. So what it is basically the geniuses and the experts set up the show, and then through Live Panel, through any HTML-enabled device, browser, you can actually control the whole show. It's got 4 mix outs, it's got NDI KVM, it's got SRT, it's got Live Story Creator. That's for $79.95. There's also a 10K bundle that I love, $9,995, that gets you the TriCaster, the 2 Sparks. It also gives you the control surface, which I love the tactile feel, and you get a travel case. So we're going to get into some very specific Mini 4K workflows, and I just want to let people know, and I want to thank Jeremy. Jeremy provided these slides to us, and at some point, these slides will be incorporated into the official NewTek and Video Guys TriCaster Mini pages. But for now, Jeremy's the man. He made them, and he's going to walk us through them. So if you could just take us to Jeremy on this slide, and he'll just walk through that out-of-the-box workflow that you get with this product. And I'll tell you right now, had you had this picture available when we first sold it, we wouldn't have had that slow on-ramp curve we had.
Yeah, so this was something that we've developed as the sales engineers inside NewTek. When we talk about with clients and demos, the workflow. Okay, we see this box. How do we connect up to it? How's it really going to function in our space? And yeah, the cameras with the direct connectivity makes from a portable setup incredibly slick and easy. That's a 4-port card on the back, so it's not an internal network switch. It's just a 4-port gigabit card that does supply PoE. Now, it's an overall PoE budget of 60 watts. So that means 2 of our cameras can plug straight in. that gives you your control and your power and your video all over Cat6 cable directly to the box. You don't need a switch right now for that part. Now, if you're going to hook up to anything else on the network or to stream out, then yeah, you're going to have an interface to deal with that. But from a simplistic viewpoint, just to get started, make it quick and easy, we do have that easy onboard 4-port card. So 2 cameras, 2 of our Sparks, that gets you that connectivity. Now, if you want to expand this out, that's where NDI really takes over. You've got 2 ports on the back on the motherboard that you can connect up to a network switch. Now sky's the limit. Whatever your network switch capabilities are, that's your overall ecosystem. The Sparks for encode or decode. So there's 2 different modes of the Sparks. And the fact you got 2 of them that comes with the system, if you already have PTZ cameras or NDI devices, that's fine. Flip the script and do it for decode. Now you can take an NDI output from the TriCaster, decode that, and feed it to a monitor or projector for overflow or for, I use the word IMAG loosely, but there are ways to take advantage of sitting and routing those signals separately through the system. So the Sparks,
Jeremy, on that, I want you to explain what decode does, because that explains encode. Your camera gets plugged in HDMI into the Spark, and then the Spark over your network comes into the TriCaster or directly attached to the TriCaster. Talk about decode a little bit, because that's a feature that's in these I/O boxes that is really tremendous, especially if you're a house of worship with an overflow room, or if you're a school where you want to have the teacher sharing with another classroom or 3 classrooms within your building or within your whole network, or if you're a corporate situation where you can have the training being happening on the factory floor where people in a conference room or somewhere else in the building can be watching what's going on. So talk about decode a little bit, because I think it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, so, and the fact that we have 2 of these boxes that come with every Mini 4K, I had this actually with a demo with the client last year when they were like, oh yeah, we're buying PTZ cameras, what do I need the Sparks for? To them, it was useless. And I was like, okay, what kind of facility? So this is a house of worship. So I asked the guy, what are you doing are you doing any type of projection or anything else inside the sanctuary? And he was like, yeah, we have this whole HDMI rig, and we've got DAs and splitters and all this cabling. I was like, now you got 2 of these that come with the system, so it's already paid for. Set these up as decoders. Now you have 1 at each projector. Now you can route independent NDI sources from the TriCaster to each location. And he says, I don't need all that HDMI DA stuff anymore. I said, no. He said, sold. I'm like,
so let's
cool, I like
explain independent for people, because people lose track of that. With the TriCaster, I have multiple outputs where I can send things to different products. So I could have let's say the lyrics coming in off of, say, ProPresenter. I could have several cameras. I could have just the lyrics going to one screen if I'm in a house of worship, or if I'm in a school situation. Let's say one camera is on the professor and another, but another maybe is on the lab equipment that he's working on. I could have just the lab equipment being shown to another classroom or where have you. So I love the fact that I can send that video signal wherever I want it. It's like the ultimate matrix routing. And I hate to use the word matrix, because that's really something to something. Well, this is anything to anything. It's actually, I can go 1 to 3, 3 to 1, because I've got a mixer. I've got control of everything here.
Right. You've got 4 mix outputs on that Mini 4K. Mix 1, sure, that'll be your program output. That's your record. That's whatever. Mix 2, 3, and 4, that could be ISOs. That could be independent cameras. That could be that overhead shot that you had of the gear that you showed. That could be sending out one of the mix outputs going to an overhead projector or something like that for the entire class to see what you're demoing as they're watching you and doing the lecture. I mean, it really is that cool and that easy to set up. And the fact that is when these boxes are in decode mode, there's actually 9 different presets that you can assign. So now from a web GUI or something else, you can control and in effect change that route. We also have an analog audio connector. So that could be used for embed or de-embed. So now I can de-embed that audio to a set of headphones. I can listen to a speaker. I can have an overhead speaker that's above a display that's having the analog audio output. So there's so many different ways you can utilize these Sparks. And it's not just the HDMI version. Now the HDMI version does come with the Mini 4K, but we also have our HD SDI version as well. So if you need that SDI connectivity, we have that in the 3G. We also have just recently released our 12G option, because Mini 4K, it's in the name. We accept 4K resolution. Now we have a Spark that can convert that 12G SDI into 4K to get it into the NDI system of the TriCaster.
And I've got those right here, so you can see the different jacks that are on them based on which ones they are and what they're doing here. So let me get into the right spot.
Yep, and all these boxes, encode or decode, so it's not a simultaneous.
Dual SDI,
If you're in encode, you do get that loop through. So it can come output of a camera, HDMI, to the Spark, and then loop through that HDMI to a localized monitor. That's fine. That works just like it is. But in decode mode, you're just taking an NDI signal that's coming from the TriCaster, decoding that, send it to a display.
And I just got a comment. These are really built rugged and really solid. And you know, when you're going to be using these in a situation where you don't have control of every single thing that's going on physically in the room, you want to know you have something that's solid, that if someone knocks into it, someone bangs into it, it's not going to all send everything kablooey. People drop stuff accidentally. So I love having these. I love that they're so well built. They don't heat up. They're just a great job on the engineering that I wanted to add. We have a picture of the jack panel, but I think we hit this pretty much to death. These 3 slides will be embedded on our blog post that goes with this, this video. So one of the things I want to dive into now is a little bit more of the verticals that we see the Mini being used into. So the first one's education, Jeremy. Take it away. How can educators use a Mini?
Well, they can go back and watch our video from last week and really talk about that. Nice little shameless plug there. But from an educational standpoint, not just in the classroom, traditional morning announcement type production, we're using these a lot with distance learning applications, where we're back in a hybrid school environment where you got some that are in class, but you also have guest lecturers. You've got students that are coming in from, especially in higher ed, this gets used quite a bit. The TriCaster becomes a centralized focus point where classroom instruction is being done inside of an auditorium, inside of a classroom space. Students are there, but I have the capability with the Skype TX and other applications to then interact with remote guests and remote callers, remote presentation sources, content, whether or not that's streams that are coming in for SRT, because we do support SRT now as a web stream that comes in, graphic content, media playback on the unit. So it's not just in your traditional, hey, students are running morning announcements, let's play the menu slide. No, we can actually have a full-on interactivity inside the classroom.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that I think is real cool is a lot of schools now have competitions that aren't athletic. And I'm not talking about esports, that's for a whole other show, but I'm talking about things like they'll do Model UN, they'll do Model Court, they'll do DECA where they're doing marketing plans, they're doing independent research. Well, I've got some schools who bought TriCaster for me where they're setting that up in a room in their research department where now the kids are using it for rehearsals to see how they look and what they're doing. But more than that, they're actually doing like mock competitions with other schools as a way to prep and get ready where they're presenting to another school and back like that where it's produced. And I think what we're learning is that it's great that these kids can have these experiences of flying all over the country to be in these competitions, but we could also have competitions right at home where we could add a level of value add and creativity of which producing the content becomes something for the kids who are maybe in those other classes to participate with these kids who are doing it. And we have found that putting a studio with live streaming, and there's a difference between a studio and a studio with live streaming. And live streaming means the kids can produce something that could be on Facebook, it could be on social media, it could be out there for their friends to see that day when it happens. The instant gratification can really help a school be sticky. And if you get a few kids who really, maybe they weren't so into coming into school so that, but they love producing these videos and making these videos, now they have a reason to go to school, now they have a reason to pay attention, and now the educators have a reason to keep them engaged and also work in things that involve other classes, because if they're doing a video that's in a math class, maybe some math rubs off. If they're doing a video that's a class that's doing Shakespeare, maybe some of that rubs off. So I just love that video is becoming a medium that's being democratized is a word we use to death, but what I like to do about it is all ages can participate in video production now, and this product can be used in middle schools, it can be used in higher ed, it can be used for your PhD, it can be used to produce, you know, your Big Ten basketball game if you want. It's whatever you're doing, it's up for you for your production, but this fits into education in so many places. And the reason I brought up all these things is often public schools especially and smaller colleges and universities have limited budgets. A TriCaster can be purchased by pooling budgets together from sports, from the theatrical group, from the communications department, from the journalism department, where maybe you each have $2,500 in your budget, you come together, and that's how you get your $10,000 you can afford to get this system in and get things going. So now I want to jump ahead to houses of worship, where you and I know this is really where the TriCaster really took off over the last couple of years, you know, especially this year with the pandemic. Churches couldn't have people in the church. They wanted to bring their services to their community. And what they've learned is, yeah, a camera in the back of the room works, but something like a TriCaster with an operator and a couple of PTZ cameras, and now all of a sudden you can spread your message, you can keep your church engaged, and you know what a lot of churches learned? When people come back to church, there's still going to be a lot of people watching the live services because they realize they're not competing for those people. They're expanding the participation and the engagement with their worship community.
Yep, just changed my background image.
There you go.
I need to update the picture because it is from Christmas, but you still get the idea. Yes, the engagement level has really changed a lot of people's focus and mindset when it comes to streaming because, yeah, everyone always thought it was either or. You're either in service or you're home watching. And the fact that we're able to expand the outreach every single Sunday, I monitor the streams and see what's going on from my church here in Brunswick. And it is kind of amazing on who's watching at any given time because we've got, family members. We're all over, spread out. Every family's got people that live somewhere else. You're able to watch and be able to check in and see what's going on at your home church if you're traveling, if mission areas are involved, if you want to check in on church that you had previously visited on vacation, go in the other direction. So
one of the kids has the sniffles, so you're not coming into church that Sunday. You're going to watch from home.
Right, exactly. That happened with us when we went through COVID too. And we were be able to watch it from home as well. And take it to the flip side and the capabilities of the TriCaster, you have remote operation. So now you could be home controlling the TriCaster that is inside the church in the case of an issue like that. This actually happened with a client of mine a couple weeks ago where the operator, his family got exposed, so he couldn't come in. So he was quarantined, but because they were able to set up a VPN at church, he was able to still run the entire service from his home.
Incredible.
That's just the nature of how well our products are built. And
I want to stress also, because the TriCaster is a full switcher, mixer, producer, there's graphics, there's lyrics. You can bring all this stuff in. If there's a 800 number or a website to go into for donations, you can embed that in there. You can do the lower thirds like we're doing here. And one of the things that those little things that me and you take for granted as being in this space really can make your presentation so much more engaging. We're talking heads. When you bring up the guy's name of who it is and what he does, it seems a little different. It seems like you're watching network news. It's a different feel. You get that feel of production a little better. And, houses of worship are embracing TriCasters and live streaming. And this is a great way to go on a budget, because I know every penny counts for a house of worship and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, if you can find a way to get a TriCaster and some cameras in, you will expand your reach. The donations will eventually catch up and it'll cover itself. It's really, the key is getting your message and affecting the lives of as many people as possible. And through a TriCaster, you can reach more people and affect more lives.
Very true.
Last thing we want to talk about is corporate streaming. Corporate streaming was something that really wasn't even in existence, before the pandemic. Yeah, the big Fortune 500s could do it, but the little companies couldn't. If you were the CEO of a local, let's say, hardware store, and you just wanted to reach out your message to the people in your constituency, or maybe you have a insurance firm that just merged with another insurance firm, you want to get the word out. Well, most people, they'd send out a press release or give out some cards or an end the penny saver, but now you can produce your own live stream that you can promote on your local. Every town's got a local Facebook page, the moms, the dads, the different organizations, the things like that. YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world. So if you do a video about your product on YouTube and you put the right keywords in there and it's an engaging video, people go to YouTube to find out about stuff. They don't just go to Google, even though, let's face it, you're going to the same place when the dust settles. But, that use of corporate video and corporate communications like this, I don't think people realize the power that video can have for your brand and your branding.
Not just external, but also internal as well. When you're talking about training videos, corporate education, we had a huge surge in corporate event planning where you can't travel to go to regional events anymore, even if it's all internal folks that are doing it. So you have to engage folks externally as well. So the TriCaster became like that centralized focus of bringing in people for discussions, training aspects. We had a very high-profile manufacturing company for farm equipment decided that, hey, we have to train our corporate stores on how to do things. And so that they utilized TriCasters for that to walk through, okay, store displays, how things are set up. They take one store, they walk around the facility, all that video gets sent back and is mixed for that stream for all the other stores to look at. Also, medical, when you talk about different organizations that are spread out, not only just on the insurance side, but the manufacturing side, the hospital organizational structures, a lot of hospitals have multiple facilities. So when you're talking about different hospitals that can't meet together, now you can engage with something like a TriCaster sitting in the middle to bring guests, to bring lecturers in, to play back the medical conference information, things like that, to be able to engage with each other. So there's so many different ways to utilize video, and especially with the TriCaster product sitting in the middle of that.
And like a bar or restaurant that wants to have live music that we all miss so much, what better way to let people know you have live music in your establishment than doing some streams to your community where you are of some of that live music? I guarantee for the people who watch it, everyone's going to be saying, I want to go to that place. If I like that music and I like that musician, I'm going to know when's he coming back and playing next, and I'm going to want to see him. So I promised everyone that we were going to get a little bit more into the weeds on some demo stuff and things like that. So we're going to go full screen on Jeremy, who's actually going to show us what his setup looks like, because he's running a TriCaster Mini 4K over there. And then he's going to walk us through Live Panel, which to me is a real revolutionary product that's a part of the TriCaster. All TriCasters have it now, that really lets you pre-program your show into, it's just click, click, button, button, button. And for Jeremy, you're going to explain it better than me. So what we're looking at right here, this is your actual TriCaster Mini interface, isn't it?
Right, yeah. So this is the Mini 4K interface. And in fact, I have a camera on the ceiling in my basement that's actually pointing. So the camera that you see there in preview, that is my Mini with the Mini CS that's set up. So now I can see what's going on, and now I can utilize the built-in KVM features. I can actually control the entire TriCaster from what's going on. And I can actually spin that camera around so I can see what's going on. So here are all my camera presets on that window. So if I pop up and go over to preset 1 and break the fourth wall, here I am. I'm at my desk. On the other side of the room, I can control everything. Spin that camera back around, and I can tease you there. There's the big boy. There's the TriCaster 2 Elite. The Mini 4K is sitting right there next to it.
Jeremy gets access to all the best toys, people.
Yes. On my collection of SRT ducks. So, yeah, but it's really beneficial having this setup when I'm talking about demos. I'm able to control and actually show people, here's the TriCaster in action. Because everyone's always like, okay, how in the world am I going to demo a production switcher to somebody online? Here's how we do it. I've got my NDI tools running. I'm running Studio Monitor. I'm remote controlling in through KVM. I'm taking the NDI output of the TriCaster and feeding that back into the VMR. So now I'm using the TriCaster and demoing it at the same time.
And Jeremy, I just want to, you mentioned something that I think I want to spend some time on, and that is you can go to NewTek.tv and sign up for a live demonstration with a NewTek sales rep, where it could be Jeremy, it could be someone else, but they're actually going to walk you through what Jeremy's doing now, specific your questions. It's a one-on-one demonstration deep dive that's super duper cool. So I wanted to get that graphic up here for a second, Jeremy. Now we're going to cut back to you in your studio full screen.
Sure. And then actually see what's really going on. Here's another camera showing on the opposite side. Ignore my drywall work. It's really shoddy, but hey, it's work in progress. So all my systems are set up across here where I'm on an entire NDI-based network. The only camera, the only source anywhere in the entire ecosystem here that is baseband video is this camera shot. So you see that little JVC camera that's sitting over there on the side. This is that camera shot. So I'm taking the HDMI output of this camera through a Spark, turning it 4K into NDI as an input into the TriCaster. Now, to show something really cool is our pan and scan feature. So that's that wide area region of interest on that 4K shot. I can now zoom in on different areas of the screen. So so there's my old school Technic speakers and old school TV, my NewTek lava lamp. All that stuff is sitting over there on that mess that my wife wishes I never would show anybody, but here it is. But I'm doing this based on a 4K shot. That's the region of interest. Then I'm doing pan and scans, and I'm saving these presets, and I can recall that. So now if you think about other types of camera sources, other types of devices that are sitting on the network as an NDI, 4K especially, how in the world can I utilize 4K in production? This region of interest is very cool and very advantageous. Think about from a lecture capture. If you want to, just like that overhead shot that you had of the Mini sitting there, rather than have the camera zoom in, I can quickly do a region of interest capture on it in 4K. So now when I zoom in, that gives me a 1080 close-up.
And
so
I think it's important.
Pixeling.
That's one of the ways I see 4K coming. And people say, I want to buy a PTZ, I want to buy a camera. Should I get 4K? Should I get HD? And one of the reasons I tell people 4K is it's not just future-proof. there's some cool stuff you could do with that 4K with this region of interest tool. And I got to tell you, I think it's fantastic. This is something you used to have to buy a subscription to get access to, but it's now a feature in every TriCaster, correct?
Correct. And then take it a step further. When you talk about streaming, no one can stream in 4K. There's not enough bandwidth. But it's that signal acquisition that makes sense. I want high quality, good high resolution image to start with. That's my master recording. That's my archive content. I want to start in the highest quality possible. And then, yeah, as you go down and have to stream out in 720, that's totally fine. You still have amazing video coming back to you.
So, Jeremy, let's jump back to, let's jump back to live panel, because I really want folks to see how cool this is. So we're going to go back to you full screen too, and let's jump into live panel, because folks, you're going to be blown away by what Jeremy can do with this.
All right, so I'm going to start here. Oh, it would help if I actually give you the right source. So let me switch over, and the beauty of Ndi, this is how I can pull this off. I can find all of my outputs. There we go. So now I can bring up my actual live panel page. So again, this is a browser. I just opened up Chrome. So I'm going to the IP address of the TriCaster.
Yep.
And I've got several different options inside live panel. The first one that gets utilized probably more than most would be the audio mixer.
Yep.
So now I have fader control of the internal audio channels of the TriCaster. Now this becomes cool because I can run this off an iPad. I can have this sitting at front of house if I'm doing a live event, if I'm doing a house of worship, if I'm doing a corporate hybrid meeting event where I've got a large venue space that I'm mixing for in-room effect, as also I'm mixing for the stream side. I have control over this remotely. So
I can walk all over the venue and hear how everything sounds, right?
Exactly. Media playback. So if I've got internal graphics that I'm dealing with, so here's my pre-recorded green screen content for virtual sets. Here's my other graphic bins, my other DDRs. I have all this capability, so I can then farm out different jobs to different individuals in a production. I don't have to treat it as one-man band. I can. That's what the TriCaster is designed for. But this gives you a lot more flexibility. Data link. This is how you set up bringing in external content or graphics. If you're coming at from scoreboards, RSS feeds,
social media.
Not only just social media, voting machines. That's what I was thinking about, for like council meetings and stuff. Yep. I can set that web keys if I'm pulling out information from certain types of web sources. I can set that via data link. We do have an internal switcher. I'm not a big fan of it because it's limited. It's just click, button, press, and that's what you're switching. So instead, I built my own.
Oh!
So now I have inside Builder, I can set up whatever I want to on how I want to run my production. I can click my sources across the top. If that's going to be an additional camera source, if I'm going to switch that. Overhead shots. There it goes. Other things that are going on inside here, I can then switch via macros and then send that out to program. I have my start my streams. I can start my recordings. Other types of ME effects.
Can you quickly explain what a macro is for those who've never had a TriCaster before?
Yeah, so our macros, so pretty much anything the TriCaster can do, we can now create a macro and recall that. Whether or not that's switching sources, that's playing back a lower third, that's fading up audio. I mean, anything that the TriCaster is capable of doing based on its own internal control mechanism, we can then send that as a macro. Now we can have multiple effects happen at the same time. If I want to switch cameras and bring on a lower third, that's usually a couple button process. Well, I can create a macro that combines all those elements into one, now a single button press, and I can have 4 or 5 things happen together.
And now I can map those macros to specific panels in the live panel boxes. I can hit one button and have a lower third come up and the audio cut from me to the preacher or whatever I want to do. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so here's a virtual set that I have set up. That was all based on something that was already done inside TriCaster. I'm just recalling it from this button press. The PTZ control. I have a special page just for that. So just Camera 4 PTZ presets. Now I'm able to do that. I can do those zoom ins. There's the wide shot. I can zoom in on the panel itself. So now I can give individual control of camera presets somewhere on the network. They could be sitting in the sanctuary. They could be sitting in the boardroom. They could be sitting on the event space. All their job is to do is to pick whichever camera preset. I've created windows so they can see that they're in preview and then whatever's going out on air. So there's so many different ways you can do this inside Live Panel. You have 16 pages that you can set up. And so from that, let me actually move my preview window so I can see what's going on. I'm able to then control that, whatever page that I want to. I pick a blank one, for example, page 9. Let's just pick that for example. Now you see what the blank canvas looks like. And so as you click on it, it's like, okay, what do I want to do? I can then size the boxes, I can change the background, add the text, and then like we talked about macros. I don't want to record the macro, I want to pick one. So I can pick anything that's on the list. So some of these are the available ones that come with the system. Some of these are the ones that I created. So now you have access to this. That becomes your trigger. Now, when you think about training, when you think about who's actually going to run the system, when we talk about the main interface, this is everything the TriCaster can do.
A little overwhelming.
Simplify operation, now you're simplifying that back down to I just have control over what Live Panel gives me. So that limits.
So if I'm a house of worship, I can have one expert who sets up an easy-to-run show for a volunteer. If I'm a high school, I can have the upperclassmen mapping all this stuff out, while an underclassman, a freshman or a sophomore taking the 101 version of the course, can be doing their stuff. And more importantly, if I'm in a corporate setting, I can actually allow a VP or someone who's doing the presentation to kind of run his own show, which gives them a little added feeling of control and power, right?
Oh, exactly. So they can switch their camera sources. They can do like the virtual zooms and everything that I just did through the virtual set. I've got all my zooms and all my presets set up. I have this control based on this panel just because how I created it.
NewTek.tv. So Jeremy, I want to bring up that lower third again, NewTek.tv, that people can go to. We could spend an hour and a half on this, but we got some other important stuff we got to get to. So why don't you leave the TriCaster interface and come back on the show through your regular interface, and let's talk about one of the things that's real important, and that is the power, the underlying technology that's made the TriCasters go from 10 to 11 to 12 in Spinal Tap turns is NDI. And NDI 4.5 really knocked it out of the box. And if you think you know about NDI, but you haven't kept up with the developments, it's really become far more robust. We're operating on iOS now. One of the things I really love about it is Ndi Hx versus full NDI, the latency, the differences have really come down, and really for a TriCaster, it doesn't care what you're coming in, whereas in the beginning days, we would tell people you have to be one or the other. It wasn't guaranteed, but we knew things would work better. Now, you can mix all kinds of flavors as long as everything's NDI 4.5, you can mix all kinds of stuff. And then the other thing that I think is really cool is the unlimited IP recording. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because that to me is a tremendous feature that only NewTek gives you.
Right. So there's a lot of cool stuff that was on that slide and that availability. And I will hint, something will be coming later this year. A newer version, NDI 5, is coming around the corner. Don't know a date yet, but stay tuned. A lot of cool stuff will be coming for NDI 5. But with the unlimited IP recording, what that means is on the Mini 4K, we have the capability of recording all your ISOs coming in, plus your outputs and whatever's going on in your mixes 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, the internal hard drive can't support that, so we do have other ways to handle all those different types of recording. It's anywhere on the network. NDI Studio Monitor, you've got a little red button down at the bottom. So that's running on a computer. Any NDI source you see floating around the network, you can hit record and then localize that recording. We have our NewTek remote storage. You can then record all your ISOs to that box. We support the USB connectivity on the back of the unit. Traditional network shares in a regular Windows environment. There's so many different ways we can now handle that NDI traffic and record it and keep it, not just for editing, but also for archiving. If you want to see what's going on in a classroom environment and see the entire presentation, or especially if you're doing any type of training videos, you want to see how the kids are doing and how they're going to run a show. You can have someone kind of as an overseer record the entire NDI production so they can go back and review, okay, here's what you're doing for your show. Let's walk back through the different steps. Or lecture capture. I mean, just so many different options and capabilities with the NDI recording.
And when we're talking about the future, what I love about NDI is it's data over a pipe. So it is future-proof because we'll just keep finding ways of putting more and more better and better information along that pipe. And with 4.5, we really nailed 4K. If you've got a gigabit, if you've got a gigabit network, you can do 4K productions. Now, of course, too many sources, you're going to flood things. We all understand there's only so much bandwidth you have, but still, that we're getting 4K video flawlessly over an existing network is just incredible.
That's how I'm coming to you right now. So that's my PTZ UHD cameras on me is in full 4K on NDI. So we've got the two flavors of the NDI, our full bandwidth, which everyone knows and loves, and then our HX. So we're on our second version of HX. We got HX2. That allows for the 4K at a much lower bandwidth, but we don't have to sacrifice latency like we used to in the past. So now side by side, there's a whole lot of people that can't really tell the difference between NDI and HX because of the timing and something like that. So we say visually lossless. It all comes down to the application, the network, make sure the network's configured correctly. That's always the key with NDI. And then the capability. So with 4K on a network, yes, everyone freaks out. That's a lot of bandwidth. HX gets around that. It's a lot simpler with an HX protocol with 4K. You're pushing around 30 mega versus 230 on full bandwidth. Now we can get more cameras down those pipes to be able to spread all that wealth of the 4K solution.
Cool. So, Jeremy, let's just talk about the rest of the NDI products from NewTek. Now, there's a whole world of an ecosystem of NDI products from a bunch of third-party vendors who are all partners of NewTek. We sell some of them we don't sell. It's all good. But today's show is a NewTek show, so we're going to concentrate on NewTek. So we've got 4 levels of Sparks. We've got the Spark Plus 4K, which is a one-way encoder for $5.99. We got the IO 4K, that's encode decode for $8.95, and you get 2 of those with the TriCaster Mini NDI 4K. We have the Plus IO 3G SDI and the 12G SDI IO as well. So whatever your workflows are and your existing gear is, it can be integrated into the TriCaster Mini through these Sparks. We also have 2 different PTZ cameras that are excellent, the PTZ UHD and the PTZ2. Now, the PTZ UHD for $39.85 is a 4K PTZ camera for $4,000. 30x optical zoom. I love that camera. I know not everyone's got the budget for it, but if you're seeing the future, this is a camera to get because of things like region of interest, because of things like 4K just looks better and higher frame rates. It's the way to go.
Yeah, and having a PoE Plus camera is very beneficial and easy to install because most switches are just PoE Plus. So then you're taking that camera and plugging it straight into a network switch. Now you have 4K going down a Cat6 cable. It makes the installation a lot simpler.
And as you mentioned earlier, the TriCaster Mini itself can power 2 of these and still have Sparks and other stuff running on the network. So I also want to talk about something that I just freaking love, and I think it's the coolest little gadget you have, and that's Ndi Hx Camera App. Now, I'm so happy that there's 2 flavors now because I am a Google, I'm an Android guy, not an iPhone guy. But basically what this little app does, it allows you to turn your phone into a camera that can then be brought into your TriCaster via being on the same Wi-Fi network. But it's more than just that because you're actually providing some really cool controls. Like, I know there are things that'll turn an NDI camera into a streaming device, but you're actually turning it into a camera. So explain a little bit about how cool this little app is for $19.99.
Yeah, and I was about to show it until I forgot to plug my phone in, and it died just as we were about to talk about this.
Welcome to live video, my friend.
I think you're right. So, yeah. So now if you think about ease of use and simplified operation, whatever's going on your phone, that is your signal going out. So the HX camera application is very cool. So on my iPhone, I can do full 4K. Now, I do recommend an isolated 5G Wi-Fi adapter for this because you don't want to be on everybody's public Wi-Fi because, again, Wi-Fi is 100% reliable 30% of the time. You're going to suck a whole lot of bandwidth if you're trying to go from your iPhone via 4K over NDI. That's the caveat. But it does work very, very well. In fact, on social media a few months back, I actually posted a video of myself using my iPhone for my camera for a green screen shot. It worked great. So
super cool.
If you think about ease of use, ease of installation, adding additional cameras. You're talking about students at a school walking around with phones in their pocket. Now you've added so many more potential camera sources to your production. Houses of worship. You're propping your iPhone up on a music stand to get an awesome close-up shot of your guitarist or of your drummer. And so it's very simple way to add more camera sources than just to have an obtrusive PTZ camera sitting right there on stage.
Cool. And then let's talk about something that I think is so amazing, and that is you guys have a full NDI toolkit that is free. It is not you have to pay for it. You get all these NDI tools, which are, some of them are good for your production, some of them are good for troubleshooting, some of them are good having nothing to do even using a TriCaster. But some of the stuff I love are the Adobe Creative Cloud plugins. I love how you guys are working with Adobe, how Adobe Timeline can play right out of your editing machine over NDI into your TriCaster. And also your TriCaster you can record directly for Adobe from a stream that's going on live. So if I had an editing room on the other side of the building, you could be recording that stuff. So the second the show's over, you're ready to start editing. That's so cool.
Yeah, the tagline I like to use is, "We do play well with others."
That's right.
So that's yeah, the Adobe the live graphics plugin. The fact that I can, just really quick just show you that tagline, the lower third I just put up. That's an After Effects file. I'm just turning off and turning off layers of an After Effects file because that was exported out with our live graphics plugin. So now I don't have to create or learn a brand new CG infrastructure if I've already set up in the Adobe Creative Suite. I can just export out my PSDs, load them in the TriCaster, change text when necessary. I've got my basic template already set up. So for branding purposes, it's very simple, and it's ease of use and widespread. When you talk about the Premiere workflow, we got a couple guys in-house that have really run with this and taken it to the next level with our NRS performance package on the storage side. Now I'm bringing all that content in. I've got that offline rendering ready to go, or a live renderless playback off a timeline. The fact we support growing files on the records and having those Ndi ISOs coming in. So there's so many cool ways we can interact in the Adobe Creative Suite. And yeah, so for Mac and for Windows, there are some slight variations, like we don't have the virtual input for Mac.
Right.
That's just because Macs are different than PCs. Everybody knows it. We got some limitations. So we make our best effort. I'm doing everything from my PC from Ndi tools. Yep. I don't actually sit in front of my TriCasters anymore for demos, which, being an old school trained TD, kind of hurts, but that's the way the new technology is. I still love my control surface. I still want to use that more than anything. But yeah, this is also a great way to see, hey, can Ndi work on my network? We have the free tools. Download them, install them, run them, playback content off a VLC player, send that on the Ndi output, go to another workstation, bring that up on Studio Monitor, and try to watch that stream and see how Ndi plays on your existing network. Now you have the real-life experience to then go back and start to tinker or talk to IT folks. How can we better manage this? And then they get involved. They see, okay, yeah, let's isolate some VLANs. Let's set up a different way to path. Now we can pull that full pipe and really take advantage of the Ndi ecosystem.
And I think for educators and IT departments that support churches and schools, I find these tools are very good for troubleshooting and getting things set up properly as a way to know, yeah, is it NDI, is it the network, is it some gear or stuff like that? Because to do a full NDI setup where you're going with a whole bunch of stuff, talking a whole bunch of stuff, you're going to have to roll up your sleeves a little bit and get into the IT architecture of what you're doing to have it be reliable and done right. But these tools help along the way. So I just love this, and I want to stress again that anyone who wants to can go to newtek.com/TV and book their own live demo and get, full videos, but you can book a one-on-one demo. And really, let's say you have a specific question about it that you just want to say, can it do this? That's what these live demos are for. They're not canned demos. It's really, truly an interactive demo where your NewTek rep will help you figure out how the TriCaster will work for you, and more importantly, which TriCaster is right for you, because this show was about the TC Mini, but there's other TriCasters. So I just wanted to mention that there is the TriCaster TC1. That's what we produce our show on, and it has a bundle that's available with a larger control surface. It's got a joystick and more MEs on it for you able to use. But one of the things is you can we'll help you find a local dealer too. So if you want to get that local demo from Jeremy and you loved it, that's fantastic. And then you say, hey, but I also want to find a local dealer. Well, we understand maybe you're not confident enough to buy it from a video guys where it just shows up on your porch and you install it yourself. NewTek has local dealers throughout the country, and we work with all of them so that if you'd like your demo and you want to find a local guy, we just want you to get your TriCaster up and running and loving it. And the other thing I want to mention is there's a ton of fantastic training now on NewTek University available where you can actually become a certified NewTek TriCaster operator and other things as well. So I just wanted to mention that because I think when we're talking to schools, not only can you have kids learn these products in a school setting, but you can actually have them walk away with a certification, and that is amazing.
Yeah, so years ago, we actually had a operator locator on our website, and so some of that's going to be coming back too. So if you talk about freelancers, once you have that certified operator, you can talk about it. You can use that, for additional employment. Also on NewTek University, we've got our Ndi Certification class. So if you really want to have a deep dive understanding of Ndi and get certified on it, you can do that there. There's also a 3-play class. We have our replay system. That's on there. Also our infrastructure products are available, our minis, our other types of Connect boxes. But yeah, so NewTek.tv, you can see the demo listings. You can do a demo on NDI. You can talk about the TriCasters or how's it going to work in an education environment or house of worship. And then also, there's also some video on demand stuff on NewTek.tv. That website's also where we do our new product announcements. So I will say stay tuned in the middle of May because there's a cool one coming up then. And then a few others are posted there as well. So a lot of stuff at NewTek.tv.
And I also want to stress there's a lot of stuff on videoguys.com, and you can give us a call at 800-323-2325 to learn more about the products we sell, to talk to people. Because right now we're running today's show on a TC1. Oliver's at the helm of the production today, and we always use this stuff. But I want to talk to people about the TriCaster and streaming in general. It's been my motto for this year, and that is in 2020, we made live streaming work. A lot of schools, houses of worship, corporations kind of got thrust into, we just got to make this work, we got to get it out there. Well, in 2021, we're going to make it work better, look better, and easier to do. And if you watch today's show, I think you saw that the TriCaster Mini 4K is a great way to up your game and take your productions to the next level, especially if you've got some switching stuff, some gear. You don't have to throw your gear out. Your cameras with Sparks, they're going to work just fine. And the TriCaster Mini, loaded with power and performance. And one of the things that Jeremy said earlier that I want to stress again is we've loved the TriCaster Mini, and we've been selling it since the first version. But one of the things that used to happen is it did everything it said it could do, but when you tried to do everything, eventually, it's still a computer, and you just out-featured what the computer could do at the same time. With this being NDI at its core, it's more efficient, and it's a better just class of computer inside that you really can push this thing to the wall. You can do virtual sets, multiple videos coming in, lower thirds, all this stuff, streaming to Facebook at the same time you're recording ISO, all at the same show, because it's just that's what I meant by the product's an evolutionary version of a revolutionary product being the TriCaster. And we're real big fans of this product. Like we said earlier, it's $79.95, gets you the TriCaster Mini with 2 Spark Plus IOs, or the kit that I love is the $999, the $10,000 kit that gets you the TriCaster Mini, the 2 IOs, the control surface, and the carrying case. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the show. I knew the two of us were not going to be able to keep to a half hour, but I didn't think we'd fill almost an hour. And you know, I always like to end my shows giving my guests the last words of wisdom, whatever you want to give us. So, Jeremy, the floor is yours. You got a couple of minutes. Talk away, baby. Tell us what you want to tell us about NewTek and TriCaster.
All right, thanks, Gary. Well, and like we talk about with all of our products, it doesn't matter if you start with the Mini or start with the TC2 or anything in between. We kind of make them overpowerful. It's very hard to use 100% what the TriCaster is capable of doing. That's fine. That's by design. There's about 5,000 right ways of doing things with the TriCaster. There's about 4 wrong, and we definitely point them out to you. But for the most part, is whatever makes the most sense to you as the end user at that given time. Whatever workflow makes sense to you then, because we have the capability. It's software-based. That's the other cool part. We don't force you into one type of workflow. That's the beauty about software-defined video storytelling, that hashtag SDVS that we talk about all the time on social media. There's so many different ways you can do this and approach this, and it gives you that flexibility and scalability to really take it to the next level when you're comfortable to do so. And we also talk about trade-ins. You start with the Mini, you can trade that into a TC1 or up to a TriCaster 2 Elite. We give you that option. We want to keep you in the NewTek family for as long as possible, and we give you those tools to do so, and then the training and understanding and knowledge and know-how that once you know one, you can kind of run them all. If I go between the Mini 4K and the TC2, the same operator, yes, there's some differences between hardware, but for the most part, when you run the software, it's going to be the same look and same feel.
Jeremy, I thank you. This was a great show. I loved it. I know we want to do a show on just the networking, picking a switch side of this whole thing. I know one day, I think I want to do a show where maybe I'll log into you getting a live demo, and we'll go through what it's like to get one of those live demos, because it's so cool. But this was a really great show. I want to thank you so much. You did a show with me last week. So this is 2 weeks in a row. You are the man, and I'm so happy to be working with you. I want to remind everyone that we're on Video Guys Live, videoguys.com/live, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. We do the show every Tuesday. Watch us on Facebook, YouTube, social media, all that good stuff. Like us, spread the word, share these videos. We'll be cutting this video into some smaller, more digestible clips for our social media. But Jeremy, Phenomenal show. Thank you so much. You kicked this one, knocked this one out of the park. My show usually is a 9 or a 10. You took it to an 11 or a 12. Thank you so much. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Video Guys Live webinar. We go live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time to our Facebook and YouTube pages with the latest news on live streaming, video editing, and video storage technology. Join us next week for an exciting webinar on SanDisk Professional Storage Solutions. Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.